So a question for you now as we go to our next keynote address is, how many people think that in the discussion about the digital transformation, one thing is lost in that discussion, and that is the people, the humans in the process? How many of you would say that that part of the process is forgotten? Raise your hand. I mean, it's significant, right? Yeah, so we decided to make that a topic for our next keynote presentation. In this keynote, this is interesting here, we're going to talk about groundbreaking research, findings, and offerings, and new insights into the way people work and interact in today's digital workplace. I think it's a fascinating topic, and I think it's a topic that we don't talk enough about. We're going to talk about that right now. Please give a warm round of applause to the Executive Vice President with Unify, Mr. Peter Kürpick.
Thanks.
Have fun.
Hi, everybody. So he already did a nice intro, and I'd like to talk to you today about the human aspect of digital transformation. And what I mean by that is what we do with our mouths and with our ears, okay? Because if you look at the digital transformation, I mean, it looks like it's new. You know, there's a lot of buzz, especially here at CeBIT, around digital transformation, but it's not new. I mean, people have digitized processes, digitized, the workplace in general, power tools, etc., for years. And right now, we're kind of having that next wave of digitization that is running through the industry at large. And there's one aspect of it which really hasn't really changed. Okay, while we're having all this compute power pouring in, while we're having all this storage capacity that goes through the roof, we're talking petabytes, etc. We're talking about 4G or 5G right now on the bandwidth, so we're always going to have gigabit access anywhere, anytime when it comes to digesting information, getting data, process data in a way that we can run our businesses better. At the same time, the work's lifestyle has changed. If you ask a young person today, like a 20-year-old, he has a whole different expectation to what his workspace or his work environment would look like. Right? In the old days, you would go to the office, you would have your desk, you would have your desktop phone, you would have your PC, maybe a laptop, and you would have a work environment where you would see, quote-unquote, the same colleagues every day. That would be the standard work environment. Still, a lot of companies are working in this way, but it's changing, and it's changing at an enormous speed right now. So the organizational models are changing, demographics are changing. We're seeing people pouring in which are much younger into the workforce right now, which are digital natives, which are using mobile phones 80% of the day and don't even know what a classic PC or laptop is anymore. So we have these elements of the digital transformation which are kicking in. It's the anywhere working. I mean, people sit in literally, as we say, at Starbucks and do their work. We have all this extreme collaboration experience that people expect today. I mean, people sending around emails with files is pretty old school these days. Yeah, people would say, wow, if I get an email with a long trail of people, and I'm distributing files this way, and then I'm sending the next version and the next version, people go like, wow, this is, it's old school, it's not really kind of quotey, it's not what you want to do anymore these days. And then the organizations are changing. They're getting more flat, they're getting more modular around certain topics. A lot of organizations today are not having this classic hierarchies anymore. They're based around certain topics. Hierarchies and the number of people who report to you don't really matter anymore in a lot of modern organizations. And then the whole enterprise ecosystem is changing. The interaction is changing. You're not only working, with within the organization. You have the same work style and the same speed of interaction with partners, customers, anywhere around the workspace. Now, we did a little bit of analysis on this, and when you look at what people are saying, this is pretty representative. It's almost 10,000 people that we took into account here. 69% of the people say that this single office space that we have is going to go away. It's not going to be there anymore. They don't even have the expectation that it's going to be there. Okay, so they'll come into an office and have a, what we call virtual workplace. They'll kind of pick and grab a space. They'll sit maybe in meeting rooms anyhow, 80% or 70% of the day, right? And then 65% are thinking that their job is going to change. In a lot of industries, the jobs are changing, and when you then take the 35%, which is still less than 50, but 35% of the people think their jobs are going to go away. Okay, so the whole way of working is changing massively. Take some of the, like accountant tasks. You can read in the internet already in research. There's a lot of, like research where, some of the highly standardized work, like what accountants are doing, it's going to go away. It's going to be done by machines who take, the information and digest them. And only through kind of like eventing and exception handling, human beings are going to be involved. So we have this massive change that's happening. And right now, if you look at what's happening also here at CeBIT, a lot of that is only taken into account when it comes to kind of leveraging data for the business, but not what do the human beings in that context, what does it mean for them in their interaction among themselves? And I'm not talking about the interaction, with business tools, with business analytic tools and that. I'm talking about the interaction among themselves. So another piece of statistics here, 74% of say that all this social involvement has really changed their work, or 42% are saying that virtual teams are more efficient. Why? Because you can focus on the work. You do focus on the content, and you're not kind of distracted by things in the surrounding. And 36% say that the creativity that comes out of these virtual teams is the most important part. If you look at businesses that are successful these days, it's about the speed of change that makes them successful. Google is famous for saying that speed is coming as number one, before anything else, before functionality, before functional completeness, before like any of the other features that customers would expect. Speed is the number one driver. And these virtual teams sometimes are much more kind of capable of gaining that speed. So the organization that we're seeing, and I depicted this in this very blunt way, the classical silos, you would have sales, marketing, product development, services, and technology. They are all merged. A lot of companies today, for example, when you're in the solution business, the way they work, they build teams out of technicians, salespeople, pre-sales people, marketing people, and they pitch to a customer in a way that the customer kind of embraces the solution based, let's say, on a prototype, on a like version 1.0 kind of view on what it could be, and then rapidly they drive the customer to decision. You want to buy this? You want to have this? Yes, go. If not, move on. So the times where you would have these gigantic projects that go on for years and that kind of embrace thousands of people and that at the end are very highly inefficient because you don't know where the costs are going, and you also don't manage the people in this project in an efficient way. They're not there anymore. They are there, but customers are more and more not willing to pay for that. They're not willing to go there. They want that lean and efficient way of interacting with the buyer, with the seller, and get a solution on the fast path. Let me come to the core of basically the findings that we have. On the left side up here, you see an absolutely simplified view of what I call end-to-end digitization. And I've been in this world for a couple of years. I've worked for a couple of companies who are kind of behind these logos. This world, like from ERP to CRM, and this is just like a very generic picture, is pretty much end-to-end digitized. You buy on the web, you buy through any of what we call the multi-channel, and then you get your bill, and you get tracked, and you get offered and upselling and cross-selling. All of that is happening. While on this side, and we have this little arrow there, which kind of shows the disconnect, the way we run this business, the way people in companies run these businesses is still the old way. We sit in rooms. We might have a phone in the middle of the table, one of these typical conferencing systems. We might be on our cell phones. And what we do is we talk to each other about the business that is on the other side. Is there any connect? Does anybody know about any connect between those two worlds? Right now, I would say almost 100% of the companies have no connect between those two worlds. The moment you drop the call, the moment the conference call is over, it's gone. You might have your document that you looked at. You might recall that in the calendar it says, you know, these 5 people were on the call. Is there any track of it? Nothing, 0. Okay? That is what we call this human part that is not captured at all in what we call digital transformation. None of it is captured. How often have you guys, you know, especially when you're in a large organization, been in a classic conference call, 25 people on the call, 2 or 3 people are literally talking, everybody else is just listening, and you don't even know whether they're listening. They're on their keyboards, you hear the clapping of the keyboards because they're doing whatever, you know, they're either doing email or surfing the web or whatever. And then once in a while you hear somebody, John, are you agreeing? And then it goes like, unmute. Yes, it's okay, I'm fine. Mute. That's how we do business today. It is highly inefficient. If you have 20 people on a call, where you might only have to have 5 people on the call, all the other 15 for 1 hour costs money. That is just gone. That's how we run our digital businesses and our digitally transformed businesses today. Very highly inefficient. And so, if you then look at the tools that we have in this space, and tools can be, you know, any kind of solution, soft phones, whatever you want to have, you know, conferencing systems or whatever. People say, you know, a lot of these tools are fragmented. You know, the technology is still overcomplicated. And, you know, the user experience is not what you want to have because the entry level to any one of these tools has to be very low. It has to be pretty much at the level of what I do when I pick up my cell phone and I press the number and I have the guy on the phone. At that level of, you know, like ease of use, that's where you want to be. Of course, there's still the big monster out there called email. But email today, and I guess you are in the same category where I am, you know, we get hundreds of these beautiful emails every day. And then people invented this, you know, these hierarchies and this indexing, so you get some kind of a feeling that somebody kind of organized your emails a little bit on your behalf. Still, you can't find stuff. How often I call somebody and say, can you send this email again? You know, I can't really find it. Right? Why? Various reasons. One reason is, you know, you reply to the reply to the reply. So it says re.re.re.re. And then literally the text of what you meant in that email is coming, right? Highly inefficient way of communicating. Highly inefficient way. Now, it's still there. It's incumbent. It's not going to go away. I'm not the one who's standing here and saying email is going to go away, okay? But, you know, 74% of the people say it's, you know, it's not what they really want to use, etc. So what we want to see is we want to come up in the communication between human beings with a way of doing this in a much more, call it elegant, call it efficient, and call it also human-centric way. Human-centric in the sense that, you know, humans embrace it and say, wow, this is kind of cool. I really want to do this. Yeah. So the first thing is you need to change the way you build all these things. You know, and I'm not saying this is nothing new. Anybody who builds an app has to go this route. You build it from the outside in. You start literally from the UI. Yeah, you look at UI, you look at, you know, the kind of data that you want to propagate to the end user, and then you define yourselves how you're going to put this into action, and not the old way where you start with a piece of infrastructure that is kind of scalable and robust, and then day -2 before you launch the product, you go like, oh, what does the UI look like, by the way? And you're kind of disappointed. Okay, that's how you built software in the 80s and 90s and still 5 years ago, but that's over. The app world has shown us, you click on the app, you look at it, you go like, I don't like it. Double, or you know, you hold on the iOS, delete, done. History. You become history in 5 minutes. And you become even history in 5 minutes in a company. We underestimate that one. We think we're going to go to the IT guy called the CIO, and he's going to just, you know, just propagate it into his organization. No, it's not happening. People are saying, no, I'm not going to use this app. I don't like it. I don't like this piece of functionality. Numerous examples of that have we seen. So I'm going to kind of put the punchline here and say there is a new category of tools that has emerged. And before I kind of show this a little bit, I'd like to kind of recap. We all had, you know, enterprise services network, social networks coming up a couple years ago. You know, numerous companies were there. All the large ones embrace that solution. And these enterprise social networks rapidly morphed into monsters. There was hugely connected document management system. They morphed into something next to the intranet or something like to, a big, enterprise version of a wiki or whatever. And so we said, and you see those, the adoption is not what people were expecting. So what we see is there's a new category of very lightweight applications/apps coming out, which are really kind of making a difference. We participate in this game. You see, some of the other players here, like Cisco and Slack and us with our CeBIT application. So what is the heart of that new category of ways of interacting? First of all, we use the WebRTC standard, all of them, which means what you need as an end user kicks it off with a browser or an iOS app or an Android app or whatever, okay? So you have zero impact on the front end when you want to use that. WebRTC is the big driver. Number two, it doesn't come with that false richness of functionality that we had on the enterprise social networks. You don't want to have like a sophisticated way of interacting. What you want to build groups around topics. And what you also want to have real-time communication. So the moment I build a group, the moment I'm sharing a document around a certain topic, I press a button and the guys are online. I have them in a call. I have them in a video conference. I do screen sharing in the context of what I'm discussing. And I'm also chatting. Chat is new, back. We had it 25 years ago on Unix machines. It's kind of coming back. But I have all of this in one context, which means the moment I'm kind of leaving this conf call, it's not gone. It's not, gone. I have a record of the context. I know exactly at that time I spoke with these 5 people, and they were literally online. Still don't know whether they're typing if I'm not on a video conference, but I can check that one. And I know we spoke about this doc after that. The next step after that is text-to-speech. We can record all of that. And all of a sudden, you have a situation where you know exactly about what kind of document we spoke. And I'm going to go beyond documents later. At what time, in which context. And you have some kind of, with text-to-speech, we index, for example, in our application, we index everything. You can search for that. All of a sudden, oh, John the other day said, we're going to close the deal. Now, 2 days later, he goes like, no, that deal, I never promised. But John, look, let's go back. Last week, we looked at this document, and you said there, we're going to close the deal. It's done. And now you're going, no? Why? Okay? So all of that, all of a sudden, that digital transformation, all the beauty that we get out of that is completely correlated to what people are doing, on the voice, video kind of interaction. And that is something which, is not yet there. It's not yet a thing that has been kind of taken for serious, okay? Now, digital workplace, basically what you want to have something that is much more responsive and agile, okay? And I'm going to show this a little later, you want this thing to be what we call a platform. You don't want it to be an application. Application is a closed thing. Comes in a version X, next year version X plus 1, and then basically you say, okay, use version X, and next year there's more features. No, large customers, even small, medium customers, they're not willing to do this. What they want is something where they can inject their own kind of functionality, their own richness out of their backend systems into the application. Okay, so everything as a service is very important. And then, of course, the whole thing needs to be cloud-based, scalable, literally supposed to cost nothing. Yeah? So you got to start it, kick it off with a freemium model. Not even because of purchasing, the department is not going to buy it, just because the adoption in the business is easier. People try stuff out. They go, click, download, build a group of 5 people, try it out, works, and then they propagate. So the way we used to sell in the past, like, you walk into a customer, you say, hi, Mr. Customer, I have this great stuff for you. You got to buy it, you got to spend $1 million, and then we're talking. No, we're not talking. So freemium, all these models are super important to get the humans to embrace. So machines are much more convenient because machines, you can just force them to do what they are supposed to do or what you want them to do. Right? The next big thing, it's not even just the Internet of Things, but we're going to see much more human-machine or machine-human interaction. How do you want to capture all of that? How many applications do you want to deploy in your organization to have a machine-to-human interaction? I'll give you one example. Very large companies like GE, Siemens, and these kind of companies who have very large power plants out there. Imagine you have a service technician, sits in Kansas, okay? And here's a call coming in somewhere from Asia about a power plant going bust. Temperature is not working. What do? You're on the phone and then you have a screen share and you're looking at the dashboard of the machine. No. Integrate all of these data in such an environment, triggers a call automatically, gets dispatched to the right person. Person goes to that new kind of collaborative environment, sees a preset of information, automatically generated by the tool, the right people in the group, plays a button, has a call. Guys, what do we do? Do you see the data? Yes, of course they see the data because these data have been kind of put into the context. And imagine that same scenario in something where, legal obligation requires that you have to record the thing. No problem. You can record the whole thing. You can say, hey, we spoke at 1:21 in the morning. We spoke about that, and that's the decision we took. It's all there. Okay? So what you need for that is you need a platform. This is just as an example how we do it, but the whole thing needs to be a platform that allows you to integrate these worlds into your environment. Okay? Simple things, very easy things. All the horizontal processes, travel approval, any kind of approval, HR approval, all these things, just inject them. In our case, for example, and you can see this later if you want on our booth, it's a couple of lines of Java code, JavaScript code. Inject it into the system, and all of a sudden, you interact with one of the backend systems. All of that has become, over time, so easy. Yeah. And then I can have a context where I say, okay, why do you want to travel again to this XYZ place? I call the person, I make a decision, I press the button, let's say approved, and all of a sudden I have the full record. I have the call, was that person at that time, I pressed approve, it's all done. Okay, so it's one integrated scenario. Of course, and this is also just a little example here, it's not even sophisticated. All of that is also expected in all the e-commerce business. We're going to see more and more of that e-commerce business being very human-centric. How do you want to do this? How do you want to inject, let's say, voice and video into an e-commerce environment, a sophisticated e-commerce environment, without that being very easy? Being injectable very easy out of a platform that scales worldwide. This human-centric interaction, and by the way, in these e-commerce scenarios, you want to have some kind of recording when it comes to closing the deal. Classic thing in a call center, somebody says, oh, by the way, can I record this now for purpose of closing the deal? And you go like, yes, okay, and then it starts going through all the typical, you ask for this and that, that's the contract, that's the terms and conditions, you say yes, 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 and you're done. Yeah. We need to bring this to the next level. We want to bring this into the context of what that person bought. Today, call centers, they're like miles away from the actual e-commerce platform that you're using, maybe to actually present the offer to the customers. So, in a nutshell, what I wanted to give you an idea is that the human-centric interaction in digital transformation has really not been tackled in a way it should be. Humans are still using digitally based tools to interact, but the actual interaction is completely analog. We speak into a microphone, it gets propagated, and it gets put into a speaker, and it ends up into our ears. That's how we communicate. And in between, there's very little going on as of now. We want to change this. Okay? So we have the ambition to change that. There's quite a few companies that are out there that are tackling this market, and I foresee that in a couple of years, we're going to have an interaction where the business context and what human interaction is happening around the business context is completely going to be ingrained. We are literally going to have the ability to search for what was said, if you want. With that, I'm going to fast forward here because of time and say, what is the consideration for you from an enterprise perspective? So if you kind of are interested in this topic, okay, look for flexible tools. I think that is the big miss on the enterprise social networks. They became heavy very fast, and they were maybe even heavy in the very beginning, right? So they missed the point. They became very clumsy, and people say, gosh, this is another big tool I need to feed. That is, for me, when I talk to customers and employees of customers, the big thing is they don't want something they need to feed. They don't want a tool that they need to put stuff in. The tool has to come and help, and then you might inject some content, but you don't want to feed the tool, right? And then you need to take this as a transformational process, okay? And you have to have a tool that is easy to digest when it comes to deployment. You don't want to have IT coming back to you and say, oh my gosh, I need to install this on a PC, and I need to provision, and you go, oh my gosh, okay, it's going to be a big project, complex, clumsy. No, cloud-based, okay? And we all collectively can sort out what it means in terms of data security, availability, and all these kind of things, which are, especially in Europe, quite a challenge. With that, just kind of little piece of marketing here. We are in Hall 13, Unify big booth. You can kind of look at what we're doing in this context. And with that, I thank you very much for your attention. And I open it for questions. So anybody has a question, happy to discuss.
We've got time for one question. Do we have a question from the audience?
Please.
I mean, someone's
Please
gonna
ask questions.
raise their hand. Any? Right here? This lady right here. We got a microphone for you.
Okay, cool.
Hi. Let's say I'm in a big corporation where I do have a lot of, employees who will not be able or who won't be happy to actually, be able to see or watch or search for some of recordings. How do I change the culture inside this kind of corporation?
I would say it's a gradual process, okay? I mean, there are companies that are used to that. I mean, if you're a trader in a bank, there's a lot of recording going on, okay? And in other environments, maybe even public sector, there's no recording. So, of course, you have to adapt it to your company. You cannot say, guys, I'm going to record from tomorrow on, and you have to live with that. That's not going to happen. But people are, over time, also going to see the benefit of it. They're going to say, wait, I said this and that, and you can't prove me wrong. So it's a give and take. All of these topics are definitely give and takes when it comes to that human-centric part.
I understand that, but I'm talking about people who are like not the digital natives who maybe understand, but talking about people over 40, 50 who are actually really, really
I'll tell you something. The solution that we built, for example, is almost, I would say, plus minus a couple %, almost as easy to use as WhatsApp, okay? And if you reach a level, I mean, our solution, for example, has no manual, has literally no documentation. It has a little, like help popping up, like, you could do this and this here. No manuals whatsoever. So I think from a tools perspective, you can reach a point where like a 60-year-old can, use it, definitely. For sure.
Excellent. Peter, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Time is up. Thank you. Give
Thank
a
you.
round of applause to Mr. Kürpick. Thank you.
Thank you.